Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Pedcast. We are here with episode number 10 today. We're finally back. I know we did miss last week. I do apologise for that one. But today we are here with an absolutely banging episode with Takara. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure as always. A very interesting, obviously, career you've had in esports so far. And it should be very exciting to delve into that. But as always, I will give everybody a run through of the topics and what to expect of today. And we always do it in a topic system from topic 1 today to topic 4. So, topic 1 is simply just player background and information. Topic 2, teams and teammates. Topic 3, achievements and ambitions. And topic 4, the fun little one or the other questions. And we will be adding a topic 5 as well, which will be announced at the end, and you'll find out what it is. But it's something that we're going to add to Pedcast. It's a little niche, just so you know everyone can come and expect a little surprise at the end every week and see what they can get their hands on that you might not have thought of before. But no, without further ado, we'll move into the first topic, get straight down to business. So how old are you, Takara?
I'm 21. Boomer
21
by
years
Rocket
of
League
age.
standards. I know it's crazy.
Well, yeah, you're an esports boomer to some people. To some people, you're still very young in the scene. To the gaming industry, you're very young. Um, but no. So what age did you get involved in gaming?
I was like super young. I was like, I don't know, maybe like 5 years old or something. I got like a hand-me-down computer from my half brother, who's like, I don't know, he's like in his mid 30s, you know. So,
Yeah.
but he's always been a gamer. He got me into it like from I was super young. So I was playing like these terrible like flash games, whatever, like many hours a day when I was like a little child. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has their own stories of getting involved in the gaming world. I mean, it's either the father, the siblings, or stumbling across something at school or whatever it may be. But no, yeah, I think 5 years of age, so 16 years of gaming madness, and it's clearly paid off. So what age were you when you got involved in Rocket League then?
I think I was about, well, I'd have been early 2018, so I'd say, well, yeah, I was 15 then.
Quite early, caught the trend just a year or two after a release date, so that's not too bad. Before the free to play, so much respect
Yeah,
for
definitely.
that. But no, you've gone for quite a while then. So how many hours have you got in the game?
Oh, more than I'd, oh, no. Oh, you got to ask me that, haven't you? I got 7,400 at the moment. It's not looking good for me.
And what's the peak rank you've hit so far with 7,400 hours?
Ah, this is really depressing, actually. I was, well, in the new system, I've only been GC3, but
Oh yeah.
like before, like season 14 and stuff, I was like over 2K, like consistently before I took a big break. So if I tell people my peak, I usually just say, yeah, about 1,800.
Fair enough.
Uh,
Yeah, no, I remember. I remember. I mean, I've had 4,000 or so hours, and I'm on GC1, and it doesn't look like it's going very far. Hopefully, I can catch up with the next 3,000 hours I've got. Um, but no, that's not too bad. GC3 hitting the high notes anyway. How close have you been to SSL so far? Then have you been sort of on the border or mid?
Oh yeah, like single digit points off. We're talking like one game.
Ah,
Few times.
that mental
So
twist at the last game.
yeah, it's one of them ones. I think I've probably lost more rank up games than anyone else in Rocket League, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough. It is always the game that you start playing bad just because you know what's on the line, even though it's only ranked. It's sort of you don't care about any of the game until you're on that final rank up game, and that's why I have to turn MMR off sometimes because when I know I'm going up, it's like oh, yeah, no, your teammate starts spamming you in chat when you start playing bad as well. Oh dear. But how did you get involved in the more competitive side of Rocket League then? So your leagues, your grassroots sort of scenery. How did that come about?
so I was like, it's actually not long after I started playing the game. I think I was just really bored, and I was just scrolling like the Twitch page of like, oh, who's streaming Rocket League right now? Maybe I'll find someone cool. And I saw someone like a league called UERLA. I
Yeah.
think long dead now. I mean, for years, but um, so I like joined the server, and one of the casters was like really nice because I was like a gold player or
Yeah.
something. And they're like, "Wow, a gold! Well, you can teach them." So this caster like come and sort of showed me a few things and showed me around. I think so. I was in that community for a little bit. I think my like first time I properly got into competitive. I was actually playing like when if people are familiar with Godalions, the little bedroom org,
Yeah.
but when they first founded in 2018, I was like on their like initial rosters. So, because like Godalo, the content creator, I was a fan of his. So it's quite cool. And then we played in like ECC in the same year, so like mid to late 2018.
Yeah, no, ECC's been going for well, was going, rest in peace,
Oh, rest in
for
peace. Yeah.
a very long time. Did you ever play on the likes of IGL?
No, actually, that's one of the things I missed out on, or well, maybe I missed out. I'm not sure really. I think I did so ECC and I was playing so many scrims and all that. I didn't really get involved with all these other like community league stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's sort of one of those things where if you're already doing it in ECC, it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's like just copy and pasted
Yeah.
into a different server. I mean, I know there's a lot of them going around now with the LOS champs and leagues like that. So it is just copy and pasting it. So that's an interesting pathway, and you've gone through usually the same sort of channels as most players in Rocket League. You started playing ranked, I'd presume, and you started playing with some friends and getting online and trying to improve and being probably just like me, not the greatest at the game, and then
Oh, yeah.
a friend or streamer or someone sort of gets you involved in those league things, and you go, okay, I actually quite enjoy this. Now, what is it for you that makes you enjoy the competitive side more than just playing ranked or not the old scrim?
I've always thought, I don't know, it's just like a different feeling. I think the game is much more enjoyable in competitive settings because you know, it's always better than ranked because I feel like there's so much more potential in what you can do as a team, and what you're incentivized to do. It's like these risky plays, these like intense plays, passing plays. Um, so I think the play style of comp is just way more like fun for me, um, and it's way more personal as well. I feel like you're kind of having these competitions. I mean, especially if you're playing in leagues, these like rivalries, even in lower ranks, and it's really fun just to have just persistent like personal interactions with people because I think that's one of the great things about the game is that it's bringing together people on a social level and not just like we're not just playing a game.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously you've had that with meeting your teammates at a LAN, for an example, and playing alongside each other, sat next to each other, and obviously that brings the social element and the friendship more stronger and bond a bit bit more of a strengthened bond between each other than if you were just over the computer.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've played what 3 lands with Alanis now, 2 lands with Slumpy, and it's really nice. So obviously, some people are weird in person and whatever, but that's just life, isn't it? Um, and I think having people that you get on with really well in the game is super important. It just makes it so much more fun, as I say. So
Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant answer. So, who would you say are your gaming inspirations then? You can do it in Rocket League in the competitive scene, or also just gaming in general when you're younger.
yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't think I have people that I specifically look up to. I think I've got a few people where I'll remember things they've done, and that'll stick in my mind.
Yeah,
And those moments will motivate me. I remember the first time I ever watched RLCS. I had no idea that RLCS was a thing,
yeah,
or had no idea about esports in general, really. Um, it was during the first ever, well, the first of the 2 lands that were held in London, um, back in season 5, and I tuned in. I clicked, the little thing on the main menu. You click on that, you think, oh, what's this? I remember the first goal I ever watched scored was the super iconic Devo double tap where he like drops it down off the corner of the above the opponent's net and then jumps off their backboard and dishes it in. And I thought that moment there, that like I don't know, something just like twigged in me about the game at that point. So Devo was always like someone I've thought about in terms of motivation, in Rocket League at least. And then I think generally, like on a more consistent level, I look to just who's like playing really well in a playstyle that I like, and it
yeah.
tends to change like on month to month. So I think obviously it's hard not to look up to Vatira as a player.
At the moment, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course. I think since the second London LAN actually, um, he's been. I mean, I'd say he's been the best player in the world since that LAN. pretty much consistently, which is an incredible achievement. And just his consistency and play style and his passion for the game, I think that kind of thing, that really motivates me to try and emulate that kind of emotion, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any? So obviously, like that's more of like the physical side of inspirations. But is there anything else that inspires you and motivates you to go on? Anything like that you want from your career, or you want in esports, or you want as a player? Is there anything else that sort of motivates you and wants you to go further forward?
Yeah, I guess this is kind of maybe a bit more superficial than other people would say, but I've always thought, um, I mean, it's the most fun job in the world, right? Is to do what you
Yeah,
love, no matter what that is. And for me, I love, video games, whatever. So I think being able to support just my livelihood when that first started becoming a realistic thing that might happen, like last year,
yeah,
it's sort of again, that's another thing that like talked to me, and I was like, I should really take this really seriously, actually, because yeah, I mean, what would suck more than getting to do like your dream fun job for however long, and then like having to change from that to go into like a more conventional job? I think it is um,
yeah.
it's kind of something that pushes me when I'm feeling a little bit like demotivated about the game. It kind of kicks me back in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's sort of the thought that a lot of people have about the professional circle anyway. You know, what comes after their retirement, because obviously every player is going to drop in form at some point. You know, there's this biological things like reaction speed and crazy things like that come into play. But also just, general motivation for the game. If you've been playing the game like for the length, like Squishy Muffins and Garrett G, for example, you must be ticking off the days until you're going to be able to just move on to more personal in real life things. And the question that probably would be asked of you, just like everybody else, is what would you do? When that time to hang up your boots to player comes, what is the next step? What would you want to sort of divert into after being a player?
I don't know. I think it's something I've thought a lot about because there's a lot of things I've liked to do and I've dabbled in, and I'd like to take a bit more seriously while I'm a player. And those are sort of firstly, content creation is something that I think everyone, or not everyone, but most people who play and want to like sustain their careers has to think about. Because I think in the current esports recession, we're looking at just player salaries not being you know, on the lower end, starting to not be enough to sustain yourself, but also on the higher end to not be enough to live how they want. So that's definitely been a big push in general. I'm also looking into sort of just other roles in esports. So obviously, I'm quite knowledgeable about intricate details of say Rocket League. I'm also super interested in Counter Strike, other games like that, um, and I'd love to get involved in not just content creation for those games, but also broadcasting or things like that, where I can just get involved, or like even it's working in an org, in kind of a normal job, but working in an esports org, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And the current plan, it's spending the time I've got now as a player to try and learn these skills and like um, develop that into a place where then when I do have to stop playing for whatever reason it ends up being, because obviously I guess you never know when that's going to happen. But
yeah,
so when that inevitably happens at some point, it's a case of having things already lined up and for now like dabbling in what works and what I can actually make into something that's a bit more professional, and then I guess kind of going with the flow a little bit.
yeah. No, you've hit the nail on the head. I think it is. Especially, I mean, I don't know. I remember Tabo Pulsar. I think did he go into some form of coaching as well as appearing sometimes on the casting desk and some parts of the RLCS content team. At least that was the though. I think I don't really pay attention to much of the mainstream RLCS. I'm more over in the APAC, but that's what I remember from the last time I seen it. Uh, so no, no, I think that's absolutely perfect. So is Rocket League your full time job at the moment, or are you doing other things as well on the side?
Yeah, I think my only income right now is Rocket League. And I'm trying to move out right now. So the plan is that in say a month or two's time, Rocket League will be paying my rent full time and all that. So,
Yeah,
and then from there, I mean, my current living situation is making it so that I can't really dabble in the casting, the content creation as much as I'd like to. So the plan is to make that first step and then
yeah,
diversify a lot. Um, but yeah, for now, yeah, Rocket League is my full-time job. Yeah.
yeah. No, no, that's amazing. Getting yourself into that position to begin with is hard enough with the amount of competition around. So actually being there and being able to do it is, as you said, learning other skills and having the time to actually do that and appreciate that is going to be good. But obviously, it does come with a lot of grinding time and a lot of time spent getting better at the game, which I'm sure you're not surprised about.
Of course, nothing I'm not used to.
Yeah, well, we are all gamers. We all do sit in front of the screen for hours for days on end. So if I didn't need to eat, shower, or drink, then I wouldn't probably leave the seat. I'd probably be here all the time. But there you go. Certain things have to be done. Work has to be done as well. But no. So what? Everyone coming into esports, no matter what role they're in, suffers some knocks and bumps along the way, which they have to sort of overcome. What would you say you've had to overcome to get to where you are today?
I think there's been a lot of sort of the big things that sort of held me back personally were definitely more outside the game, like social kind of thing. So I think you know, well, okay, I can start with something else as well. I've had really bad problems with RSIs in my past, so it's been years since I've had major problems with them now, but it's something that held me back a lot when I was a bit younger. So
Yeah,
repetitive strain. So I used to play claw actually, which is why I actually got RSI. But
yeah,
yeah, I had you know, I've had injuries where I basically just haven't been able to touch the game for an extended period of time, and um, that kind of stuff has made it a little bit more difficult for me. Although I think with the right physiotherapy, that's really helped me. And it's the kind of thing it kind of kicked me it kicked me up the backside of it, and then forced me to learn more about how do I take care of myself a little bit better. Because I
yeah,
think that's one thing that we kind of neglect as an esports community. We kind of neglect is the personal health, um, not just physical health, also mental health. But I think the physical health is actually super important.
yeah,
Not just in a sense, take care of yourself, but also you sort of unlock your potential and like not just in a mental way, but in like a in an energy way. I've been working with a sports psychologist recently,
yeah,
just unlocking like your energy and your routine, and just like getting into these good habits of taking care of yourself in good ways.
yeah.
So it's kind of thing. It's always a learning experience, but yeah, sometimes you just have to learn the hard way, I suppose. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
so I'd say more recently, I've been a bit all over the place. So I've lived in a few different places recently. So I'm from the Midlands in England. That's where I lived like most of my life.
Yeah.
Um, I went to university like abroad. So when I was 18, so that was a couple of years ago. And when I went, I just like completely quit Rocket League because I thought, well, new chapter, don't need Rocket League, whatever. Um, and I think I sort of neglected the fact that actually this is my passion. I tried to like force myself out of, I had the perception, I guess, that gaming is childish, whatever. So I moved on a bit and I thought after a while I came back, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
in the end, it was because if you know Chloe from who was on the initial Endpoint UV roster,
Yeah.
we were good friends. I'd like met her in person a few times, and she messaged me one day and is like, "Yo, do you want to start playing Rocket League again for WCB? I've got an org offer." And it wasn't a huge amount of money. This was back with Parabellum.
Yeah.
It was the kind of thing where it was like, again, it kind of opened my eyes a bit to this, it's not just a game, it's kind of there's a lot more going on there. But yeah, so I took, almost a year off and that sort of thing. So
No, I mean time off always sort of hinders, and especially now you've came back to the scene. You will always look back on the time you took off, and it'll always be something that you'll probably think, if I'd have just spent that year playing Rocket League, where would I be today,
yeah,
sort of thing.
exactly.
Um, and it's always going to be that sort. It's always going to be there in and around the head space. It's just about trying to place it in the correct way, and getting it into the right spot so it's not causing any mental effects or performance problems when it comes to playing. But I mean, as you said, you've had quite a lot of moves around and things that have happened that have been able to stop you from playing the game due to whatever reasons. And I mean, the fact you're still here today, you're still proving that you can do it, and you're still competing very very well in these tournaments. Just shows how it doesn't stop you, and you carry on with the same sort of mentality. So it's good. It's good to see that you don't give up on it, and you've always started coming back. And obviously, the people around you are also going to be important to that fact, keeping you going, making sure you're still going. And mental health, physical health is also what contributes towards that, and for you wanting to carry on. Clearly, the game, is got to still be fun, maybe a tiny bit addictive to want to come back to it
Yeah, of
anyway.
course.
So no, it's good to hear. But I think that covers topic 1, players and background information. So we can go now on to topic 2. And after topic 2, we'll take a short break, little drinks break, little catch the breath break. But no, we're going on to teams and teammates now. So I mean, the first question for this topic, relatively simple, just basically, what teams have you played with in your time as a competitive player?
Yeah, I think that's a good question looking back. I think since becoming sort of notable, my only team has been, this current one.
Yeah,
I think yeah, so if we look back, I mean, the roster back then was me, Slumpy, and Cluey, right? We even have the same sub, and that was 2 years ago now, almost.
yeah,
So yeah, I think going back to like what was that, August 2021, I think, something like that. Um, yeah, that's been my team. Obviously, we made the roster change of taking Alanis as Cluey sort of quit the game. Um, last summer. So again, that's been a long-term solution. But yeah, I mean, but for the last while, that's been the only team I've had, which I'm very happy with.
yeah,
I've played in tons of like pickup teams, random bubble teams, like years ago, or like low bubble, like barely bubble. A lot of people probably wouldn't call it bubble, but whatever, I don't care. Uh, but yeah, it's one of them things where everyone who I was teaming with and playing against were all completely irrelevant at the time. And now I'll look at RLCS now and it's people like, oh, Acro or whatever. You know, we used to like scrim him all the time, stuff like that. But at the time he was like completely irrelevant, and like so was I. So it's all these like random people, and half of them I don't even remember, to be honest, because it's just like you play with them for like 3 months and then someone has to like change their schedule so you can't scrim together anymore,
yeah,
and then you
yeah,
move on. So
yeah, and
but
that's
yeah,
the life of commitment in a grassroots league. Yeah, never. There's never any consistency with scheduling when you're not full time in it. I guess
yeah,
there's always going
exactly.
to be mismatches, whether it's work schedule, working nights or days. There's always problems like that appearing. But no, a long time to play with the same players though. Surely you've got the chemistry part down then with the amount of
Yeah,
time
I
you've been
mean,
together.
yeah, definitely off the pitch as well. I mean, especially me and Slumpy. I mean, I think a lot of things like I understand, like we understand about each other, like you know, in ways where I think the vast majority of people who team together and whatever just don't really, you know, they might not. Someone will say something, they're like, "What do you mean by that?" They have to like,
Yeah, yeah,
especially if it's in a game, you know,
yeah,
it's hard to explain like abstract concepts. And we're on kind of a wavelength, just because we've been through all that.
yeah, yeah.
um,
It's more of a
you know,
friendship rather than a work colleague as well.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like I say, we get on extremely well. I mean, I ended up subbing in, I think, WCB season 3, which was like, I think, March 2021. So this is while I still wasn't touching the game like at all. I was friends with Vix, the content creator for Williams,
Yeah,
and she was like, "Oh, do you want to sub for my team? You won't have to play. We just, put someone on the team, just fill the slot." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" That team had Slumpy on it as well as someone else.
Yeah.
And for playoffs, one of the players who, other than Vix and Slumpy was like, "Oh, sorry," they didn't want to continue playing the team. I was like, "Fair enough." But I was like, I don't, I wasn't planning on playing. So I was like forced in. I played the playoffs or whatever. So that's how I met Slumpy in the first place, actually. I didn't really know her at all. And then all of a sudden I played some random tournament playoffs with her. It was very weird. Um, and then from then on, it was like we kind of just have this, I don't know, this consistency of playing together since then. Even when we've been, not tied to organizations, whatever. Um, we've stuck together just because I think we have that like mutual understanding and respect, and we both understand that um, I think the 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 I guess the stereotype of the Rocket League community is like people who change teams every week because all of a sudden something's gone wrong. They're like, "Oh, don't want to deal with that. Change team."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think we all have the mentality that's the complete opposite of that. It's like if something bad happens, it's like that's just a fact of life. You have to work through it, and that's just that happens in every team. And like the proof of the long-standing teams are the people who are like willing to work through problems, and I think that's really good for not just long-term improvement, but like stability and like longevity in the scene as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think yeah. Again, you're given the A-star answers to all these questions, which is good. I'm sure a lot of people will find them interesting. I hope. Um,
So too.
where we've got it here, but no, I mean, obviously now you're in endpoint, and you're in the endpoint women's roster. So how was it sort of coming into endpoint, being that first sort of women's roster for them? Were they very new to it, or were they already expecting sort of the struggles that would come with it in terms of bad publicity or people being the typical Rocket League toxic people that are around? How do they sort of deal with all the new sort of team sort of way of things?
Yeah, I think they were aware that the scene is less professional, obviously, than what they're already in, which is Quake, Counter Strike, and obviously RLCS.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's something they knew because they'd actually looked at picking up teams in the past for WCD. I think there'd been a serious talks about them signing the current Williams roster,
Oh
which is quite funny. Big leaks. No, but they'd had they'd had chats about it. They were interested in the scene for a long time, and they paid attention here and there. Obviously, not. They learned a lot since we joined, but it was always a case of they brought a sense of professionalism that wasn't really there in the scene before. I think the biggest org before that was like KCP, whatever.
yeah.
And I think like now looking back, KCP have a bit of you know, a bit of a stigma about them for, how they dealt with the league and how they dealt
Yeah.
with, certain content creators, whatever. Um, so I think it kind of was that point where I think we were the first like, you know, stable long term like of the big orgs to come in and pick up a team that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously we got picked up like before Misfits, before Gen G, before Resolve, before Luminosity. Um, so it's nice to think, oh, maybe we caused a bit of a domino effect, but I don't think it's quite that simple. But yeah, so I think yeah, they're sort of aware of what they're getting into when it comes to a league where people aren't professional. We're not as professional as we could be. Obviously, that's something we work on, and we've learned because it's something you have to learn. You can't just know it or be good at it
Yeah.
naturally. Um, it's just like, the scene is so young, and the vast majority of players aren't salaried, and they're not having to worry about orgs and all that sort of thing. And they'll say things that maybe they wouldn't if they knew that they were being watched by orgs and people like that. Um, so. I don't know. I can't say that they're. I'm not sure if what's especially obviously what happened with KCP and cancelling the league for a few months. Nobody expected that, but I think a lot of the ups and downs are sort of expected in a scene like ours. So I hope they're not too disappointed.
Yeah. No, I mean it's. it's one of those things that um, Rocket League players sort of look up to and dream of when they're in the ranked and they're looking to go into those grassroots leagues and looking to take the next step. They look at the teams like Endpoint, and Williams Resolve and the big dogs, especially in England. You know, they're two of the largest teams for Rocket League in the UK. Guild being down there in London as well. So obviously, you know, it interests me because they've ran so long with male rosters, and now the uprising of the female rosters are sort of coming to most games and most esports. You know, it's interesting to see, just like in a football club term of things, how they take it. So no, it's good. It's good to know they're adjusting, and obviously, you know, those adjustments will keep happening on a day by day basis with new things coming and new discoveries coming to the team as well. So I'm sure that's something that you get to be part of, and I'm sure it's exciting as well being part of that sort of movement for Endpoint, and being able to help them and teach them tips and tricks to how to move from step A to step B in your sort of scene that you're so familiar with. So I guess in that sense, it is exciting time for both parties involved. But let's move on to I know the time's ticking. I don't want to take your whole evening. I know you know you've got a cold at the moment, so you're worrying through. And for that, I do thank you very much. So who's the best player then you've ever teamed with on a team, any team?
Oh, it's actually a really good question. I think it depends how I say it. If I say like how, the best player or like the most like at the time they were the best, or like the person who's become the best player like today. What are we saying?
You just say who was the best at the time you played with them.
Okay. In that case, I got a fairly easy answer. I'd probably say Chloe for that.
Yeah,
Like, the levels, the Chloe's levels in like last season of like season 4 WCB is like I was such like I don't know, because I was on low hours that whole season for pretty much. So I would just like sit back all the time. I was just like chilling, playing like 300
yeah,
points a game average. Um, yeah, Chloe was probably the best, uh, the most impactful player I've ever played with. That's for sure.
yeah,
The player who's contributed most to a team in terms of, you know, like compared to the level. Maybe I could go back and say, um, I played with some crazy individuals back years ago and whatever, but it's hard to sort of quantify their level in today's context. So
yeah.
yeah, I'd
Of
probably say
course.
Chloe then.
Yeah. Well then, similarly, who is the best player you've ever played against?
Against, oh, I think if we talk about um WCB sort of thing, then I'd say Ducks. I think she's definitely just the best player in our scene, like full stop. Both regions, whatever. I don't care. She's just different gravy, carries her team to no end, and completely unreal. If we
Yeah,
say like, any player, like ranked games, whatever, I could throw out some list of like pros in top 16s, whatever. You know, but yeah, I think I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't. So that'd be a weird thing to flex. Yeah, played against Fruity in ranked one time. He's pretty good,
yeah,
or he
yeah.
was at the time anyway. So.
Well, yeah. People come and go, disappear and reappear to the scene. Chippy being one of them. Actually, he appeared again
Yeah.
after being sort of lingering around for a long time. So there's one name for that. But so, well, I mean, I know the answer to this question pretty much already. So we'll try and tweak it a little bit. So the original question is which team did you experience the best improvement with? But I would assume that's Endpoint
Yeah, I
based off
think
of the.
it's been my only really long-term team. So I'd have to say this team, yeah. And this version of the team specifically, because it's the first version of the team where we've been able to grind it out for a extended period of time. I think the previous edition,
Yeah,
um, we didn't like grind the game too much until we joined the org, so we didn't like improve that much. But yeah, so definitely this current version of the team.
no, that's fair enough. Are there any coaches or individuals that have helped you as a player and as a team get to where you are at the moment?
Yeah, I think we so for me personally, one of my friends, he's called the Weevil. He's like irrelevant in Rocket League now because he moved to Overwatch, but um he like gave me the competitive mental, like back in 2019, whatever. And I'd attribute a lot of my grind and a lot of my attitudes, like the positive sides of my attitude to him. I think we've been trying out coaches recently, so I can't speak too much about that, but we're working with someone right now who's helping us a great deal. Um, Maybe announcement soon. So something to look out for. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's one thing I wish I'd done more of, um, is like try to have coaching, have guidance, and not just like be a free play merchant, just bim bamming the ball around. So,
Yeah. Well.
so yeah, um, but yeah, so there's not a huge amount to talk about there, but yeah, so we'll see soon, hopefully.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for the endpoint socials, because there may be someone coming very very soon. As we've heard, there you go, that we get a cheeky little bit. But no, that covers the topic 2 teams and teammates. So what we'll do now, ladies and gentlemen, is we will jump into a short break, so I can go and run and get a quick drink, and we can catch up for the next 2 sets of questions coming for you. So don't go anywhere. Tell your friends, get everybody in here for the last 2 topics. Some exciting more information to come up here from Takara. But don't go anywhere. We'll be back very very shortly. Goodbye now. Hello, gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back from the break. We're here now to sort of finish off tonight's stream and podcast. We are on to topic 3, which is achievements and ambitions. Arguably one of the most interesting topics of the night. As by the title, you probably already guess why. But no, I mean, achievements are certainly something that you've got quite a racking of. But how did you become a gold medalist? Basically, what was the process as building up to that medal that you won?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the initial thing, the start of things was Gregan putting out a tweet. Yeah, I'm the Esports England team manager for Rocket League, guys. Message me if you're interested. And oh yeah, there's a women's section too. So I was like, oh, I know Gregan. So I hit him up. And he invited me to big server with a bunch of other people. I think there was 10 of us in total in the tryouts and whatever. Um, and yeah, so I think him and Tadar, he was like the sort of he ended up doing mostly just overlooking things. And then Tadar was the, hands-on coach kind of guy, organizing the sessions. So he did yeah, so they ran a bunch of tryout sessions where they'd like teach us a few things, see how we'd react. They wanted to build a certain play style, a consistent play style for, securing basically um
Yeah,
securing wins. And so yeah, Tadar sorted us out, did a few tryouts. A few weeks later, they had a decision process. I think the decision on who played was heavily impacted by um, the restrictions on some. It was more difficult to be eligible for this than it is for WCB, for example. So a few players who probably would have made it,
yeah,
maybe one or two who probably would have made it, didn't end up participating. Um, I was one of the people who's eligible, so they took me along, and we went. I think we realized pretty quickly that on paper our roster was much much stronger than anyone else's. So it was more a case of just like you know, let's have a bit of fun, not take it, not get too stressed, treat each other well, and just try not to mess anything up.
yeah,
Um, but it was really quite weird to me. I mean, we got taken to a media day. They were like, "Yeah, do you want to just come Manchester some point?" And I was like, "Sure." A couple hours on the train for me. And that was my first ever time doing any media day or anything like that. So it was a bit weird. And then, before the event, they take us to this boot camp in Birmingham ahead of time. In one of the Belong arenas, actually,
oh
we had
yeah,
like a whole little section to ourselves. It's really nice, actually. They looked after us quite well, and yeah, it's all covered by Esports England, because they were really quite. I think they had more means to get things like that done on a slightly bigger scale than the other teams could.
yeah,
Um, so I'm appreciative of that. And yeah, I don't know. It was kind of just like you get told, "Oh yeah, well you're invited to play. Do you want to come play?" And then all of a sudden you're there, and it's it was a very surreal experience. Because of course it sort of you're in that environment, you're getting told, right, you got to be here at X date, and then they'll just lead you around and just tell you what to do, basically, and then you just sit down and play. So
Yeah,
it was quite weird in that regard. But yeah, I think the important thing was we just sort of kept a level head about being the best team there. We didn't let it get to us, or we didn't let it stress us out.
yeah,
Um, we had a bit of fun with it. Became really good friends with Alanis and Tada. I didn't really know either of them before the event. And and yeah, I mean, getting to socialize with so many people from across the world at that point, because I mean, the Australian women's Rocket League team. I mean, I still talk to now. I mean, I haven't seen them since, obviously, but it's the kind of thing we did a lot of. It was a really nice opportunity to meet a lot of people and get involved in esports in a way that I'd never done before.
yeah,
This was my first ever LAN event. So I'd never even been to like an Insomnia or an Epic LAN before this, right? So
yeah, yeah.
um, very just like flinging myself in the deep end, right? But no, it was a lot of fun actually.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like you've gone from just being the average everyday player to basically being famous. I mean, it sounds like with the media day and the getting, dragged around places. You need to be here and here. So essentially that is exactly, kind of what it is. And I mean, I know it was the first sort of, was it the first affiliated Commonwealth Esports Championship that included both male and female competitions?
I think yeah, it was the first ever Commonwealth Esports Championship at all.
Yeah,
So so yeah, it was very weird to be part of something new. I mean, like you say, exactly. It was. I went straight from being. I mean, we just signed with Endpoint at the time, and you know, so that was really fresh as well. Because I think we signed our contracts in May of last year, and this was in August, so it was a few months later. Nothing had really set in because we hadn't started playing for Endpoint, and hadn't really done much. So like you say, it was very much like being flung straight from being just like ordinary player, just like playing my game, whatever, straight into, you know, for that like 10 days that we were away, like including the boot camp, it was like it was like role playing celebrities, I guess. It was really strange.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, did you like the feeling of being on the front line, or was it nerve wracking? What was the difference in sort of feeling around the idea of you being sort of a front person for esports England?
It was really, really strange. As you say, it's not the kind of thing you really you can really just think, oh, that's normal. I think anyone doing that for the first time would be a little overwhelmed. I'm not the kind of person. I wasn't really nervous about it because I was too busy being like a bit confused still. Like, why am I here? But um, but yeah, I don't know. It was really interesting. I'm obviously really proud of the fact that I got to participate in something that was so I guess prevalent and very uh, you know, I guess I mean it was the first ever like big international LAN that was like that. Um, and hopefully more things like that will happen in the future, but don't even know if that's the case.
Yeah,
So it was very strange being a part of that. And I think even after the event, we were like talking to each other. Like when we got back to the accommodation, we were just like shaking each other a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not the kind to get nervous, just in general, really, about anything related to Rocket League. Um, but yeah, it was very weird. Very, very weird, I think, for me personally.
yeah. I think it is something that people just it's just like wow. You're right at the start, right? And I guess it did happen in sort of like what must felt like overnight. But how was
Yeah.
the feeling of competing alongside these teammates for the first well, was it the first time you competed alongside Alanis
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Slumpy?
It was Crimson with us
Was
at
it Crimson?
Commonwealth,
Yeah, yeah,
from Williams. So yeah, it was the first time I'd really played with Alanis. It's quite funny. I think just before the event was when Chloe decided to retire, quit the game,
Yeah.
focus on IRL stuff, and so we were kind of like, you know, who do we want? We want someone who's young, motivated, they grind, you know. Hmm. So, Alanis was like pretty much top of our list, like short list, who we wanted to pick up at endpoint before the event. And I kind of used it as like a scouting thing. Like I was like, we'll see
Hmm.
what she's like. We see if we vibe on like a personal level, we get on. I think there was a concern that like we might just not get on because obviously, I'm like what, 4 years older than her or something, three and
Yeah.
a half. So it's kind of like I think it's always a little bit awkward when you first like. But no, I think we clicked really well. We get on, um, and I think we bonded over quite a few things, just as friends, obviously. And yeah, it was really good. It was really enjoyable. And obviously, after that was when we made the decision to pick her up. We did a few more scrims together, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, and it was a really different experience, obviously, because if something goes badly when you're playing on land together, it's not like you can just sort of go off for the night, come back, and all of a sudden everything's fine. It's like you're still gonna be hanging out with each other for the next few hours. You go to food together because it's like at the event, and um, you gotta see each other in person for the next few hours, and the following morning. So it was a very different experience, and I think we learned a lot about how to treat, how you just treat people in a way that's a bit more human. But yeah, overall, very very enjoyable. I just think we had to get a bit used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a bit more exciting as well playing alongside each other.
Oh
Um,
yeah, definitely.
and the celebrations and that feeling, the adrenaline all lined up together, sat next to each other. So I guess that's good. So what was the mentality like going into that in that final match then, when you were just one step away from taking the gold? What was the mentality any different to the previous games, or was it just another game, another day in the office?
I think, yeah, the preparation in terms of mentality was quite specific. It's looking at, we knew we were the much better team, but we also knew that it's not a guaranteed win. And it's the kind of thing where a lot of players would get complacent, or and I think had we not had Tadar with us, who's an amazing coach, by the way, he he helps us with that mental side a lot of like, how do you treat this game in a way that guarantees that you're not gonna mess it up, but without taking it too seriously on yourself and stressing about it? So
Yeah,
finding that sweet spot between the two where, um, you have to take it extremely seriously, but at the same time, you know, at the end of the day, it is just another game.
yeah,
And if you try and treat it too differently, you're gonna end up like overcooking things or messing things up, whatever. Um, But yeah, finding that balance was really difficult, I think. And I think we struggled a lot more in that series. We played because we played against Scotland there. We swept them in the group stage with much more dominant games, if I recall correctly. And then I believe in the finals we played a couple of OTs. I mean, we swept them still, but the games were a lot closer.
yeah,
I think that they definitely made improvements as well, but it was a kind of thing where it's not, it was I guess they had nothing to lose at that point. It was just kind of like, well, they just, like, leave everything on the pitch, that's it. But for us,
yeah,
it's uh, a lot more mentally difficult to navigate, but yeah, I think it was just good to, like, make ourselves aware of that and then deal with it instead of just, like, ignoring it, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Of course. But no, that is basically covered the tournament day, and the processes leading towards the Commonwealth Esports Championships. But what have you actually achieved, in total, in esports in your career to this date?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think definitely Commonwealth is the biggest thing I've done. It's the only sort of notable event I've won, I'm pretty sure. All if you look on my you look on my Wikipedia, all of my golds are qualifiers apart from Commonwealth. So, um, but yeah, I think we've got plenty of top fours in international, like cross regional women's events, plenty of those, and so obviously finishing second in terms of the European teams a lot of times, finishing third a lot of the time in Europe at least. Um, well, yeah, I think we're kind of yet to make that big breakthrough into obviously, the mountain to climb of beating Williams is quite difficult in our scene, obviously them being so dominant. But that's something we're looking to change pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah,
And start making a few more finals, start making a few more like, maybe take a series or two off Williams eventually. That's the plan at least. So we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
Um, but
Obviously
yeah,
need to
no, yeah,
fight harder than the other team, fight the battle
well,
harder.
exactly, yeah. Eventually we're going to catch up to a point where I mean, we've taken to the game five overtimes before. That's winnable, Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's at this point it is a matter of time, before they start, losing series. Not just to us, but also the other
To
teams that are working their socks off. So
well, it's like the APAC RLCS scene.
exactly,
In
yeah,
terms of Evolve, have won it again and again and again back to back as James Cheese or whoever. With Virtuoso, Cammy realised, and all of a sudden, not only Game and Gladiators, but also Detonator were able to get past them and win a regional. Obviously, Game and Gladiators going all the way to the land. So, no, I mean, everyone has their ups and downs. Every team will. Your team will. Your team may have already had them. I might assume so. So, that is one of the most important things as well because it's how you respond to those. But no, I mean, as I said, if you guys put the effort and put the work, and it is only a matter of time until you're going to get to that final step and push your way through. But what do you want to achieve then? I know you sort of delved into it a little bit there, but what to you would be like, okay, I've done it, I've completed it.
that's a really good question. I think I've never really thought about what I'd be content with in terms of competing. I think it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, I want to make RLCS, whatever, because I'm at an age where I think, you know, there's probably too much catching up for me to do for that ever to be viable.
Yeah,
But you know, I don't know. It's hard to say because I think the nature of women's events at the moment is there's nothing that's too there's massive 100K tournament in America, the Galaxy Her tournament. That'd be a great thing to win. But we're not allowed to play, so
yeah,
um, so I know it's hard to say like what I'd want out of my career. I think the one thing that drives me the most is not individual results. It's more just the consistency and you know, the nature of the job more so than the accomplishments. Um, and maybe someday I'll be in a position where when maybe I'll be in a position where I've got other forms of income coming in where I could quit the game and not have to worry about that.
yeah,
And I think that's where I'd like to get to. Obviously, winning events is I something I need to do before I before I hang it up. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's nothing in particular that I'd say, that'd be my final achievement.
yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah, I can get behind that one. So, what tournaments then have you won? If you were to list them, or is it just the Commonwealth Games to date?
I think if we talk about like notable things, it's probably just Commonwealth, I'm pretty sure. So at least on Wikipedia, that's the only thing that's listed on there. One Planet of qualifiers.
Yeah.
But but yeah, that's about it really. Um, but yeah, as I say, looking to change that soon, hopefully.
Well, yeah. It's all down to you now. You got to
Exactly, yeah.
you got to push it that one step further and get into that play bracket. But no, that is the end of now the more serious, more information based topics. Now we get to find out a bit more of the everyday essentials for yourself. In one of the other questions, topic number 4. So this is the exciting topic, uh, which is supposed to be for short form content, but Peg can't seem to do that at the moment. So yeah, we'll get to that in a couple of weeks' time. But no, so the idea is just quite simple. Quick fire questions. We're going to fire them away, and you get to tell us which one you prefer. So without further ado, cats or dogs,
And cats every day.
tea or coffee,
Tea every day.
Starbucks or Costa?
Oh, can I say neither?
You don't like either, no? That's
No,
fine.
not really.
Greg's or Sayers?
Greg's.
LAN or online?
LAN, 100%.
Gaming or sport?
Um, Gaming. Not surprising.
Night in or night out?
Night in.
South England or North England?
Oh, it has to be North. Not even close.
What lines are perfect is when you said you're from the Midlands, so it's like, ooh.
Well, I was born here. It's not my favorite place, but
Yeah. So where's your favourite place in the north? Just out of curiosity.
I'm a big Yorkshire enjoyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, my partner lives in Sheffield. My org's based in Sheffield. I want to move to Sheffield. Um,
PGT in.
got loads of friends who live in Sheffield. So I think that's probably that's probably where I'm looking as my little crown jewel. In the north.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's brilliant. But we have obviously one final question for this podcast. It's been great so far. But what is one tech gadget that you'd say has drastically improved your life?
Oh, this is such a weird thing, right? Recently I got this hand warmer, right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty nice hand warmer. It's like 20 quid or something, so it's kind of expensive to be honest. It's like one of these USB electric ones.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not just a hand warmer, right? It's also like a charging power pack as well.
Okay.
So and it has like just one like massive battery. So I don't know. That's the thing I'm hooked on recently is hand warmer battery pack combination device. There you
Yeah.
go. Get a niche answer for you.
Where'd you get that from?
Amazon.
Amazon. There you go. Amazon. The place of many
Yeah,
things these
exactly.
days.
No,
But
it's
no.
either that or I say like, oh yeah, my controller. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. No. You know what? That is actually not a bad shout for a tech gadget. So if you want yourself a hand warmer that can also charge your phone, you know where to find it. Amazon. Get looking. But no, thank you very much, Takara. It was an absolute pleasure having you on and learning more about you and your career. And I wish you the best of luck going forward with all the tournaments and competitions.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on again. That was lovely.
It's a pleasure. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for watching wherever you may be, live, on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever you're watching. I thank you very much for watching episode number 10. And tune back in this Friday, Friday the 5th, for the next episode of Pedcast. The person and the guest will be announced later on this week. And yeah, hopefully another great episode. But thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And we will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.